Hi, everyone. Today is October the 18th, 2021. You're watching a Yakima Herald-Republic Editorial Board meeting with one of the two candidates for District 2 position on the Yakima City Council. Danny Herrera, who grew up in East Wenatchee, is an advisor for students at AC Davis High School. He served on the board of the Dispute Resolution Center of Yakima and Kittitas counties, and he's a co-founder of the College Success Foundation Yakima Alumni Board. He was also a grant reviewer in the statewide Schools Out Washington program. His opponent, Edgar Hernandez, has not responded to our invitation to participate in this interview, so it's just going to be Mr. Herrera. So, Mr. Herrera, welcome. What did we overlook in introducing you?
Thank you, Editorial Board. Yeah, and it's a Yakima City Council. I think you said Wenatchee by mistake, but it's okay. Yeah, born and raised in Southeast Yakima my whole life. I went to the public school system, Adams Elementary, Washington Middle School, AC Davis High School. After AC Davis High School, I went to the University of Washington, where I received my bachelor's and master's degree. I always knew I was going to come back to Yakima to give back to my community. So I taught third grade at McKinney Elementary for 4 years. And then I had the opportunity to work with the nonprofit that I kind of work with, the College Success Foundation, which was crucial in my college planning. I was able to get a full ride scholarship from the program to attend the University of Washington. Now I have the opportunity to work with them and work with students just like myself and for my community and kind of give back to them. And just, yeah, those are some of the few organizations as well. I can give you a whole list, but yeah, those are the main ones that I currently hold.
Very good. Well, as for the rest of us here, this is the editorial board. As I mentioned, generally our executive editor, Greg Howling, would be part of this meeting, but he is out sick today. So we still have Joanna Markell from the editorial board, me, and Kate Smith, who is our city government reporter. So let's get to the questions. First one is affordable housing and homelessness remain serious issues in Yakima. What should the city do to help?
Thank you. Good question. Yeah, one of the questions I always get to, and I've seen the Yakima housing plan, somewhat that's been laid out on their website, and they mentioned it as well. But I think when it comes to housing, it's affordable housing, and then also part of the plan that I saw was providing housing opportunities for families that are maybe low income opportunities, because I know in my district, there's a lot of families that have lived there for generations. Peers that I've gone to school with through the public school system, their parents still live in the area, but maybe they're still not homeowners as well. They're still paying rent or paying a second mortgage. So that's a different, definitely something I want to amplify, just some education on just how families in our area can build for housing, and that can be a program that is funded by the city. And I know organizations that do outreach in the area, just like the Henry Beecham Community Center, La Casa Hogar, because a lot of our families in Southeast Yakima are Spanish speaking, and there might be older as well too. And just working with other organizations as well to address this housing issues. I know Camp Hope has been doing a lot of good things. The one more I'm familiar with is Rod's House, that houses teenagers and young adults to help them get off their feet. So it's just working together and building those connections, and those connections are the ones that I built over years, and nothing new that we have to go through. And that's what I bring to the city council.
All right. Our next question would be gang violence has been a problem for years in Yakima. What are we doing wrong? And realistically, is there any way to stop it?
Yeah, and I mentioned this several times. Obviously, gang violence is the one that gets a lot of headlines. It's always in the news, but we could always remember that domestic violence is actually the number one type of crime that it's committed in Yakima. So I do want to address that again. But to address your question is, um, if we're actually trying to get to the root cause of crime and gang prevention, we have to invest in our youth, and someone that has firsthand experience from gang violence and family members that chose that route, and students that may have chose that route too, and a lot of my peers that chose that route as well. Some of the preventions that we can do is youth programs, and I mentioned it, several child recreational programs. Southeast Yakima has a high density of a population of different housings, low-income housing, disability housings, and we're one of the areas that has the least amount of green spaces, and that could definitely be just something that can be simply invested in, and not just the green spaces, but adequate lighting for the spaces and access to those facilities. I know I mentioned before, there's a baseball fields at Kiwanis Park, and I don't think they're highly accessible to students in the neighborhood. They usually have attendees from the other side of the city, outside of the city, the Lower Valley. They have programs, tournaments that cost money, and kids don't have those resources to attend, to pay for those programs as well. And I did want to mention other programs as well that I used to participate to, the Eastside Sports. I know we have basketball. When I was growing up, I used to play baseball. Baseball was more of my thing instead of basketball. And I don't see those as much as anymore. We did summer programs. I know parents used to work in the summer during the day, and I was left home alone. So I would attend those summer programs, and they would provide us with art, crafts, something to give us our mind, get off our streets. And that's definitely, if we're going to aim towards the main issue and the root cause of gang prevention, is giving students opportunities. And as an employee of the College Success Foundation, I work to promote higher education and career, whether it be four-year institution or technical school, beauty school. So we collaborate with a lot of local organizations, and since our organization is based out in Seattle, we have those large corporations that we have networkings, and former students, that alumni that actually are employees now. So definitely, if we're going to aim to reduce crime, that's a first step, and that's realistic.
Okay. Next question would be, what would you do to ensure that city services are delivered equitably? Specifically, what did you do to help provide basic services for East Side's residents?
Yeah, and then good question. I know it was asked and printed in the Yakima Herald, and I've seen it before. At one of the city council meetings, that the city council members are getting equitable training, so they can see through equitable lens. And I did mention that if you look at Eastside Yakima, the infrastructure that we've been having, it shows you the equitable lens that we need at city council, because we've been maybe haven't received those funds that for years we've been needing. I know the past couple years we've gotten sidewalks revamped, but bike lanes painted in our streets. And when I was growing up, I would have to ride my bike in the streets with no bike lanes. Our sidewalks didn't have ramps, so I would have to hop onto the sidewalks. So that just shows you what communities are being invested in and what communities are being represented, the voices that are being heard at city council. And I could definitely bring that to the table, as I mentioned. And just the investment that another point I did want to mention was the East Side pool that got removed from our community, and that just shows the commitment and investment again. Whereas maybe on 40th Ave, we have that new YMCA. So what are we doing for all the communities, for creation activities, basic infrastructure as well too. And if you still go back to the sidewalks that build past the school, the pathway to schools, there's several other streets that have not gotten sidewalks. If you go to the area by Fiesta Foods, where you hit like 13th Street, 14th Street, 15th Street, there's no sidewalks at all over there. So just the basic things. And I think if all council members can look through equitable lens and see which districts, which part of the cities have been funded totally, they can definitely see the east side is one of the areas.
Just a follow up to that, are you saying you think that some of the other council members from other districts maybe just aren't fully aware of some of the needs in East Yakima?
I wouldn't say aware, but there's a slight, I'm just thinking back to when there was a citywide voting. How would somebody know what Southeast Yakima needs if they were raised in West Valley? How familiar are they with the area? Definitely would bring the experience because I was born and raised there, and just the development, all the projects, everything going on in the area. And you don't have to look into it, and you talk to neighbors, and they've been, like I mentioned, their family's been there for generations, or they just moved there and they know what's going on versus somewhere else they're not too familiar with. So definitely, to answer your question, I would say that.
Okay. And then last question from me, at least, if you're elected, what would be your first priority?
Yeah, there's a lot, and I'm just going to keep retouching that, just public safety and those investments in youth. If we're going to say we're going to prevent crimes, let's take action to those, and we're going to commit it to again, those resources be equitable and allocated to all areas of the city. And I think that that's only accomplishable by working with other city council members and bringing my committee's issues to the table and working with them and listening to them issues as well, because nothing can be done if not all council members agree on one thing or are seeing the same thing in the city.
All right. Kate, did you have anything you wanted to add or ask?
Yeah, I would like to ask, how will you be voting on each of the 3 charter amendments that are on the ballot? One for requiring attendance for city council members, a second for just some changes to the city charter, and then the third, which would ban an income tax in the future in Yakima.
Yeah, I think right now for the tax one, I think right now we're still in a pandemic, so I don't think we need any taxes based on our residents right now, just because we're just trying to get through this pandemic. And I know I listened to the city council meeting about holding members accountable, so I would definitely vote yes for the attendance, especially now that it's been months that District 2 representative has not been at city council members, and I believe he himself was in favor of that as well. And so we'll see how the public votes. And then I need to remind you that, did you say the charter one?
The second one with procedural changes. I can look, I was just looking at that.
Yeah, I don't think
It'll take me a little. It's basically, there's some changes that would align the city charter with state law, and some other procedural changes.
Okay, yeah, I haven't looked into much into that one. Hopefully that's not an issue, but I think state issues are different from city issues and what we can do in city versus statewide. So I think that's my answer, but hopefully that's enough to answer your question. Well, at least for the other 2.
Thank you.
Anything else, anybody? Joanna?
I will ask the same question I asked on the previous race, which is the council has had some interesting moments with the interpersonal relationships between the council members over the past couple of years. How would you see yourself fitting into the new council if elected, working with others?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I'm just going to talk about just my experience being involved in different type of organizations, even through high school, and my time at the University of Washington. It's a public institution. You're going to get people from all over the world basically, and they have different views, different experiences, and that just provides just tells you the experience that I've had, and I can name some of the organizations I was part of at the University of Washington that I don't think I've mentioned before. I am a member or alumni of a fraternity, a multicultural fraternity that does have chapters in different parts of the country. We're found in Texas, and sometimes obviously someone growing in Washington versus someone growing in Texas is going to have different views. They're basically, like I said, how they were raised. And then just coming back, and as a professional, I was a teacher for 4 years and working with a grade group, not only a grade group, so two other teachers that were teaching the same grade, but whole school wide, and working with administrations that had their own job to do. So having like a boss, a superior, and making sure that we find what's best for our students, and not one necessarily what I wanted, but what's best for the students. And I can take that view, same view as to city council. People are going to have the same different views, different beliefs, and I can put that aside, have open mindfulness, and I'm not stuck to one thing. But I do know that I bring that aspect to city council if elected.
All right. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate the courtesy there. This has been the Yakima Herald-Republic's editorial board featuring Danny Herrera, who's seeking the District 2 seat on the Yakima City Council. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Take care.